Hey, you're listening to the UpRev Ninja podcast, and this is episode number 26.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the UpRev Ninja podcast. If this is your first time listening, thanks for joining us. This show is produced each week with the single intent of discovering the tips, tricks, hacks, and lessons learned from our guests that has catapulted them into living the best version of themselves. Join your host, Tom Hudson, as he continues his search for the best methods to uprev his life. Now, let's dive into the show.
So today I interview Lisa Pagotto. Lisa has lived and breathed the travel industry since 2003, excelling in all facets of the industry from product development, price contracting, and negotiations, heading up several sales, marketing, and strategic teams across Asia Pacific, as well as creating and establishing a touring brand for another company. The time naturally came when Lisa was ready to create her own brand, but built around her unique style of travel. Lisa's genre of travel is focused on the more unique, remote, lesser-known, and untouched destinations, as well as looking for fresh ways to explore old haunts. Adventure and experiential travel is close to Lisa's heart, as she believes to truly experience a destination, you must be completely immersed in it and live like the locals do. Hey, today on the UpRev Ninja podcast, I've got Lisa of Crooked Compass with us today. How you doing, Lisa?
I'm great, thanks, Tom. How are you?
I am doing great. I'm, as I was telling you before the show, I'm super excited to talk to you today, and the artwork and the photography on your website is amazing. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Yes.
So, part of your bio, I read out, you've traveled to over 100 countries, is that right?
Yeah, that's right, and counting.
I can't imagine. People think I've traveled a lot. First off, I believe the statistic for an American is like only 20 to 30% of Americans have a passport. So you're already, you're already unique if you have a passport. So, I've lived in Italy and Switzerland. I've done like the whole European thing, but I went onto one of these maps and it said I've only been to like 4% of the world or something like that. So, you've got me beat. That's all I have to say.
That's all right. There's still plenty of time to catch up.
Absolutely. Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, Lisa? Like, who you are and, the journey it took from you from, when you started this idea to where you're at today.
Sure. Okay. So I guess to provide a bit of background, I've been in the travel industry for 15 years now. Crooked Compass is my little baby, and it's in its 4th year at the moment. So still very young, but growing very quickly at the moment. And a bit of background on how I got to actually making the decision to start my own business was I went into the tourism industry straight out of high school. I studied at a tourism college, and at that point, I knew I wanted to be in the travel industry, but I just didn't know where my fit was. I didn't know how wide and how big the tourism industry was. And so I started off just as a regular retail travel agent. When I sort of found that wasn't really for me, after a couple of years, I moved on and sort of worked my way through various different sides of the industry, from wholesale. I was a tour leader in Europe for a little while. I actually went and lived in Italy and studied Italian, and was just really trying to find, where do I fit? Where, I love this industry. I'm so passionate about it. I love traveling and telling people about the amazing things that I do, but I just couldn't quite find my right fit. I then started working in the adventure travel space, and this really started to appeal to me. It's really where I started to have a lot of opportunity, and I think that a lot of that opportunity was because I had finally found where it was that I belonged. I also was given the opportunity to start a new arm of another travel company who was testing the waters in the space of customized touring, and so it was like my first, I guess, kind of venture into having something that I was creating from nothing. It was absolutely terrifying. I was very young at the time. I was only 24. But it really gave me the opportunity to own not obviously as a shareholder, but to own a part of a business and make it mine. And I absolutely thrived on that challenge. And that really started to sort of concrete that this was where I should be working. Sadly, a couple of years down the track, that company went bust and we all lost our jobs. I was lucky enough to pick up another role with another company who had seen what I'd done at this company and basically said, we want you to create a new touring brand for us. Our business is growing. We're looking to expand, and we're looking to do kind of a brand that's similar to the area that you were working in before, but a little bit more experiential. And so I spent the next 12 months looking after the sales, marketing, and product development of creating this new brand. And once I had created their 400 tours and that brand got launched into the industry, that was when I sort of had my light bulb moment of, wait a minute, I have just spent a year building a whole new brand from scratch for somebody else.
Right.
Why am I doing this for myself? And that was when I came up with the idea of Crooked Compass. I just had it on the side initially just to test the waters to see if, there was a market out there for people who were looking for those outside the box, unique, lesser known type experiences. And I sort of tested the waters over about 18 months or so through various platforms that started with a blog. Then I created a travel app that is a platform that showcases these individual experiences. And then from there, it morphed into a touring product. And I started with 6 small group tours, and then now, just over 4 years later, we've got over 90 small group tours. So there's definitely a market for it. And it's just kind of grown and expanded and taken off since then as I've come across more and more people who are like me, looking for that lesser known and lesser discovered part of the planet.
Oh, I can't. Yeah, and it is crazy how much work you put in for someone else's company, and then all of a sudden the light bulb goes off, and you're like, I could be doing this on my own. Looking back, and even now, I can't imagine some of the places that you've traveled to, that must have sparked fear or doubt in yourself or anything like that. Did you ever have anything like that kind of almost held you back from doing either the business venture or even going to some of these locations that you've traveled to?
I guess for both. So firstly, starting with the business side of it, when I had that light bulb moment, I knew that, I had the skill set to be able to build product and do the sales and marketing. But the fear that I had, or the lack of experience that I had, was in actually running a business. And I think that was probably my biggest barrier as to why, it's sort of, I didn't just jump into it straight away. I kind of edged myself into it slowly, which I guess is a good and a bad thing. I got to learn a lot along the way. But that would have been the biggest barrier in terms of not doing it sooner, was the fact that I didn't have the knowledge on how to set up a business, what insurances were needed, how to even do simple things like buy a domain name, things
Right.
that now to me are so simple, but at that point were so foreign to me. But that's all part of having a business. You can't start a business and know everything. And it's all about surrounding yourself with the right people to help you get to where it is you want to go and to ask the right questions. So there's not really anything that stopped me from starting a business. It was more trying to meander my way through to figure it out and put it all in place and making sure the business was set up properly before it started trading. From a travel perspective, I have been to quite a few places that other people would go, what did you go there for?
I can imagine, yeah.
I was very, very fortunate to go to Syria in 2008 and spend a fair bit of time there. And it was absolutely beautiful. And I remember my dad saying to me, you are not going. You are not going to the Middle East. It was 2008. It was right in the middle of all the flare-ups in Lebanon. And I said, no, I'm going. I have to go. Middle East is my favorite part of the world. And just to be able to, I had 2 months backpacking through Jordan, Israel, Syria, and Lebanon.
Wow.
And to a lot of people, that was, what are you doing? You are insane. But it was one of the most incredible journeys that I've done. In terms of scary things, the only scary thing that really happened was in Lebanon, in Beirut. It was in the middle of a lot of the issues that were happening back then, and all the airports and borders got shut. And we went into hotel lockdown, and tankers came through the streets of Beirut. we were perfectly safe the whole time. There was nothing that indicated that we were in any sort of danger, and it was only like that for a 2-day period. I know that my family back here were quite concerned, but being on the ground, we were very well looked after by the hotel, and there was no panic or anything like that. It just seemed to be everything was operating to military precision, and after a couple of days, borders reopened, airports reopened, and everyone just continued doing their thing. But that's really probably, in terms of scary, that would be the closest.
Well, I'm sure the media over sensationalized the events that were happening, and
for sure.
And your family was seeing that and probably couldn't call you, or
that's right.
Yeah.
And that's also, the media, when you have a look at the destinations that we operate tours to, Papua New Guinea is a huge destination for us at the moment. And so many people, when I speak to them and say, oh, I'm going to New Guinea, or we've got this tour running in New Guinea, people say, well, aren't you going to get shot there? And again, it's the media really, putting a negative stigma on so many destinations, which, obviously there's areas that you don't go to. But part of why I do what I do and focusing on those emerging destinations is to really break down the stigma that so many people have on destinations that are just so spectacular, but they're just hidden by this, negative media facade.
So, Lisa, you've got a lot going on. I mean, you spend how much time do you spend a year traveling?
If I put it all back to back.
Yeah, like 50%? Or
No, I wish. No, last year I did a lot more. The business has grown a lot this year, so I have been sort of chained to the office a little bit more. But last year probably would have been around 40%.
Okay.
This year would be sort of 20%.
Well, still, I mean, that's impressive. So my question's going to be, how do you travel that much, grow a business, and maintain the relationships that you have in your life? What kind of tricks can you tell us? What tools do you use?
Yeah, sure. So when I started the business, one of the things that I wanted right from the beginning was that I could run my business from anywhere in the world as long as I had an internet connection. So in terms of keeping on top of, emails, correspondence, phone calls, that sort of thing, everything is cloud-based. So as long as I can log in somewhere, I can work anywhere in the world. In terms of, the phones ringing and that sort of thing, I have 3 phones, all with different international SIM cards that all kind of divert to each other depending on where I am. And, it's just nature of the business. If I'm in a time zone that's different to here in Sydney, and the phone rings at 2:00 in the morning, I still answer it. That's just, I guess a procedure or discipline that I've put in place to ensure that I am making the most of inquiries or answering people's questions as they come through, as opposed to delaying them to a time when it's convenient for me. Because, my business is about providing a fantastic travel service to other people, and if that means being woken up in the middle of the night, then that's what it means. In terms of relationships, so I have an amazing husband. He gets to come not as much as he would like, but every now and then on some of my travels. But at the same time, we were together before I had my company, but being in the industry, I've always traveled a lot anyway. So me being away is not something that's new or different. It's just, we both know no different. I'm away quite regularly, and that's just kind of the norm in our life. And usually when I'm away, it's a week or 2 at the most. It's never for 3 months on end or anything like that.
Right. Yeah. And I can just imagine that it can be challenging. Like I said, my wife's currently in Africa, and she'll be there for 10 days, and the time difference, I want to say it's 7 or 8 hours for me right now. So, when I'm, like tonight, she'll text me, but it'll be, be midnight my time. So, and I shouldn't probably be awake at that time, but, we're trying to catch each other a few seconds. So, I can't imagine if she did this a week a month, that's 25%, that could get challenging. So, So that's and I actually have a pack of SIM cards as well. When I lived in Italy, I had the Italian one, but then I'd go to the Swiss office and I'd have to switch out, and we would go to Ireland occasionally. So I've got the three of those. So I know what that's like.
Yes.
Well, so what about just family and I don't know. I'm really trying to put myself in your shoes and figure out if I was running this internet business, internet travel business, and you're essentially have to be on 24/7. That's got to be challenging, just mentally and physically for you, right?
Yeah, it is. And I mean, I don't plan on it staying like this forever while the company is still young. It is
Right.
predominantly me putting on every hat. 1 minute I'm playing accountant, next minute I'm marketing, next minute I'm reservations.
Yeah.
But as the business grows, people will be joining the team. At the moment, we're starting to outsource some of our services like the accounts and social media and that sort of thing, just to take that off my plate. But it's I guess it's one of those decisions that you make when you start your own business. You know that for at least the first 5 to 7 years, it is going to be full on.
Mm-hmm.
And not everybody can manage with the pressure. No one can tell you how hard it really is until you go through it yourself. I mean, I knew it would be hard to run a business, but I didn't know how hard. And when I say it's hard, it's not in terms of, the logistics of running a business. It's in terms of exactly what you said, being mentally draining, physically draining, because you're being pulled in so many different directions and you do have to be on. Even if I'm like here, so for example, I haven't been overseas since February, and I've been in one time zone the whole time, but when I have people traveling, my phone can still ring, if they've got a problem or they miss a flight or they have a question or they want to change something, they'll still ring me, and it might be the middle of the night. So it really doesn't matter where I am in the world with the time zone side of things. It's a decision that you have to be prepared to make when you start a business that's in the same sort of scope as mine, where it's not a standard 9 to 5 switch off the light, walk out of the office type role.
Right, and when you're done. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, the flip side to that is the operators that I'm working with around the world, no one's really on the same time zone as Australia.
Right.
So I'm dealing with people in Africa and South America, and so it's always around the clock. It's just figuring out the best pattern to manage that the best way that you can.
Well, earlier on, you mentioned about, it's really important who you surround yourself with and ask the right questions. And obviously, we don't even know what the questions are sometimes, especially, starting a business. But what about advice that you were given, as you were kind of getting that coaching or mentorship? Was there one piece of advice that really stuck out?
Oh, I could probably write a book on the advice that I've been given.
Well, let me know when you write the book. I'll have you back on.
Yeah. Just, ask questions. No question is a dumb question.
Right.
There is just no way that you can expect to know everything or even scratch the surface of what you need to know when you start a business. But surrounding yourself with the right people, that is probably the biggest advice. And when I say the right people who believe in you, people who want to see you succeed, and people who, I guess, have the experience and the skill set that perhaps you lack. So to give you an example, one of the also a big challenge of starting your own business is going from being fully employed and having a boss who you can go and chat to if you need to brainstorm an idea or, solve a problem. All of a sudden, it's just you. And that can be, it's obviously got its pros, but it also has its cons as well.
Right.
And so surrounding yourself with the right network is hugely beneficial with things like that. And just to give you an idea of what I've done, I've actually put in place an advisory board. These people are not financially vested in the company at all, but they're people who are senior in the industry. They have far more experience than I do. They believe in me and what I'm doing, and they genuinely want to see me succeed. And so once a month, I put together an agenda. We go through anything that I, might be having challenges with. on the flip side of that, any huge wins or successes to celebrate with. When you're on your own, it can be quite lonely, and you win this huge booking or something amazing happens and you're like, I've got no one to
all right,
to I'm here by myself type of thing. So definitely surrounding yourself with the right people who can help you, even if it's just advice on, hey, I've been asked to sign this contract, what do you think? Or I'm not sure of this is what my thoughts, can you kind of help me think around what the solution should be? That is so important when you're starting a young business.
So what about things that have really pushed you out of your comfort zone and really made you grow as a person?
Where do I start with that?
I know. I was going to say I could probably give you a dozen just based on the time we've been talking, but yeah.
Yeah. When I guess the biggest one is when you have your own company, there is no one to blame but yourself. You are accountable for everything, and you have to be accountable for everything. If the phone doesn't ring, you're not doing enough to push your brand out there to get the word out. If a sale doesn't come through, how can you improve for next time? You're always constantly analyzing, reassessing, trying to improve yourself on everything that you did that didn't work the way that you wanted it to. And it's a never-ending cycle, and it's from everything through to, instead of sending an email follow-up, picking up the phone, because it's harder to say no to someone over the phone, even harder to say no to someone face-to-face, whereas you can hide behind emails. And just things that are so little but affect the big picture when obviously you have a business to create revenue. And there's just so many challenges that are small ones that kind of build up to affect the bottom line at the end of the day. And just learning, it's all about self-learning, even just the way that you speak, talking to someone about your business and refining the words that you use. Helps the way that you carry yourself, the way you present yourself. For me, at the beginning when I started my business, there were so many people that would say, oh, you've got such a great idea. And, I really believed in my idea, but I didn't have the self-confidence to really be able to, I guess, to an extent, not toot my own horn, but to be really proud of what I had created. And I was sort of almost a little bit too shy. And I believe that would have affected the way that I came across personally when speaking to people. It didn't come across that I was confident. It came across that, I had this idea and that was great. But, I wasn't comfortable talking in detail to people about it because I was worried about what they thought. What if I said something wrong? What if they asked me a question I don't know the answer to? I guess it's just an insecurity or a fear when you really need to back yourself. And that's one thing that I've definitely learned, is that as the business has grown, you really need to take note of all the little wins that you have. And, they're a reflection of yourself when it's your business and doing things correctly and, actually really being proud to talk about what you've achieved. And yes, the business is young. It's not 200 years old with a multi-million-dollar turnover or anything like that, but it's all going in the right direction, and everyone has to start somewhere. And it's just, reminding yourself of where you've come from and how much you've learnt to where you are.
Well, and I don't think even some of those businesses, maybe they've been around for 200 years, but they might not be as successful. I mean, we all have to define success for ourselves and what that means.
That's right.
Yeah, I think based on just what I know of you, you're successful. I mean, the fact that you have your own company and you're doing this, day in, day out, and you still get to travel, and you're making, you're giving smiles and putting happiness into the world and getting people to explore areas that they may not have even been aware of. I think that's, it's great. So to me, you've got more than enough success. So
thank you.
Well, I love the idea that you shared about the advisory board. I've heard that a few other times, interviewing people. But what other personal habits do you have, or mechanisms that you have in place that you believe contribute to your continual growth?
Sure. So I am very aware that as you said before, I am always switched on. Part of my brain is always focused on the business, even if it's the weekend, even if I'm on holidays, no matter what it is, because that's just how it has to be when you have your own business. But on the flip side to that, I'm also very mindful that I have a husband.
Right.
And I think that this is one of the things that people get lost in. When you start your own business, it can be very addictive to just, I remember at the beginning, I would see an inquiry come through and I'd be like, oh, I need to action this right now. And I would just obsess over it. And, why haven't they replied yet? And should I chase them up? And should I call them? And you kind of forget that there is a world outside your business.
Right.
And so I am now, after sort of, my husband saying, hello, I'm here, very mindful of making sure that every day I spend quality time with my husband. And that can be things that are so not insignificant, small, from, when my alarm goes off in the morning, I will not look at my phone until I have left the house. And, him and I have gone our separate ways to go to work. The last thing I want to be doing is sitting there with him on the couch and I'm lost staring at my phone screen, trolling through emails when that's time that I have with him. So just being very mindful of things that are a distraction. If it's something urgent, then someone will ring. And obviously I'll answer my phone. But there is no need for me to be trolling emails at, 7:00 in the morning when we're meant to be eating breakfast together.
Yeah.
So that's something small, but something that I'm very mindful of that I did get lost in for a little while at the beginning. I think it's a really hard discipline not to look at your phone. It's just such a habit these days. And even though it's something small, it is something that's just so easy to sort of slip back into. A few other things that I do is, so when I'm commuting to the office and also back home in the evening, I really try and zone out. I try not to think about work. I need some me time. And I either do that by reading a book or by listening to music, as opposed to, again, staring at my phone, going through emails, being on social media. I just need a break from that digital world, because when I am in work mode, I'm so tied up in that. And I guess when going back home to my husband, I don't want to walk in the door and start talking to him about bookings and invoices and, foreign exchange negotiation. I want to talk to him about us and what we're doing this weekend and how was his day. And so I'm very mindful. I guess it's about being mindful.
Yeah.
And being disciplined for me anyway, to switch off before I walk in that front door and to be completely present with my husband.
Yeah, and it sounds very dreamy. I think it's so many people now. There's a lot of articles now talking about how couples have intimacy isn't quite there like it used to be, and it's they attribute a lot of it is because you go to bed, you're on your phone, looking at your phone, checking Facebook, doing whatever, and and your partner is literally inches away from you, and you're on your phone, and they're doing the same thing, and then the alarm goes off, both of you grab your phone, and you immediately start going down that process, rather than even spending that couple of minutes before bed and when you wake up saying, hey, good morning, and just having that very simple chit chat. So it sounds like you've got a great process and it's working out. So I applaud you for doing that.
It doesn't always go to plan, but I try.
Yeah.
Try as hard as I can.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There's always going to be situations where things don't work. Well, Lisa,
exactly.
What about something that you're currently working on in your life that you've been struggling with, or just something that you really want to improve in your own life?
I guess, well, one of the big things, I guess it's, I don't know if, well, it probably is a struggle. So one of the big challenges that I had to face starting my own business was to give up a salary. To go from security of having, a fantastic salary and financial security to literally earning nothing and not knowing when the next paycheck comes in. That's probably been the biggest thing to try and work around. Literally last weekend. So when I started my business, we couldn't afford to stay in our house, being on one salary. So we sold our place and then bought something smaller and used it as an investment property and moved in with my in-laws while, the business could grow and I could start working my way back up to earning a decent salary. that has been something that has been a huge focus for me to work on. It's probably been one of the biggest motivators that I could have had to, start earning a replacement salary and to get back to what I was on before so that we could get back our lifestyle. We've had to give up everything, including our house. We gave up going out for dinners on weekends. We, have literally, at the beginning, we were hermits for a good 18 months while we went through this process. And that has been a huge learning curve and something that I guess it's not really a self-improvement, but something that I've been really, really striving to make the business grow. It has to work because we need to get back into our house, back into our own space so we can focus back on our lives. And literally last weekend, we moved back into our house.
Oh, congratulations.
So, yeah, thank you. So that's a huge milestone for me and for us. And something that happened sooner than what we thought it would. So very proud to have accomplished that.
So that's
I guess that's probably the biggest thing at the moment.
That's a lot of pressure and stress, and going back to what we were talking about just before about, being mindful about just the time that you have with your husband, before work, after work, stuff like that. And then in the back of your mind, you're like, ooh, but this is my next sale. If I don't do this, So and I can see that's it's something's pulling on you constantly. And so, I understand some of the stress that you're going through. And, I applaud you for, being mindful of that and, moving forward. So, what about I assume some of your clients are like they've never traveled before, or they are just kind of fed up with life and they want to do something completely different. So when you talk to these people, or even in your own life and your own relationships, what about guidance? You've got these people that are kind of just hitting their head up against the wall and they don't know where to go and how to get to the next step in their life, next phase in their life, next chapter. What kind of guidance would you give them?
So we do get a few people. A lot of solo travelers have, not all, I can't generalize, but there is a handful of solo travelers that travel with us that are in that exact situation. They need a break, whether it's from their career or perhaps a relationship failure. They just need to get away, reset, recharge, and start afresh. And I guess that, that's fantastic that we're able to offer something that gives them what they need to be able to move on or to readjust or refocus or whatever the need might be that they're looking to fulfill. The challenge with that is that I'm not a psychologist.
Right.
And being very cautious talking to people. I mean, of course, giving advice and, I can speak about destinations and cultures until the cows come home. But as soon as someone starts talking to you and getting emotional about this person did this to me and they took that and I've got nothing left. And there's kind of a fine line that you need to keep between,
right.
I guess, in that case, it's a professional relationship with a client,
right.
Where you can't get too involved. You can obviously help and provide I guess, an overlay of guidance, but being too attached. And again, this is a mistake that I made very early on. I had a lady who was coming from a marriage breakdown, wanted to travel with us. And I made the mistake of treating her like a friend as opposed to a professional relationship. And that meant calls at 10 o'clock at night, 6 o'clock in the morning, her in tears. So, of course, I'm happy to help and I definitely don't want to push her away, but it's learning to teaching yourself the line between a professional relationship and what the boundaries are.
Right.
Whereas on a flip side, when it's a personal relationship, like if it was one of my friends, perhaps they were having troubles through their pregnancy or whatever it might be, it's a very different approach when it's not.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a part of it is, your mission, your passion is behind this, the traveling and getting other people to experience that. It's not therapy. some people,
Exactly.
their passion is therapy. So, I think some people feel bad because they're like, oh, I want to help this person, but they have that inner turmoil. But if you look back at it, like, this is my passion. This is real. This is where I really can truly make a difference in people's lives. Then focus on that. So
yeah, exactly. And I mean, and that's the thing, people can start getting into their personal issues, but what I really try and do, in I guess, to answer your question in terms of providing guidance, if, say, for example, they were heading on one of our Nepal tours that includes some spa treatments and a bit of hiking and that sort of thing, is instead of, getting into the nitty-gritty of what the underlying issue is, start focusing on elements of the tour that could help them. You've got 5 days of trekking through the most spectacular national park, or the flowers are going to be in bloom then. Don't you think that would be so fantastic, just to walk through their crystal clear skies, snow-capped Himalayan mountains behind you, just to really clear your head and get all those thoughts out, and fresh mountain air, and start doing a bit of that approach as
when are we
opposed
leaving?
to he said, she said. So in terms of guidance, it's more about redirecting them to focus on what's ahead instead of what's in the past.
Well, and I think that's also kind of getting them, I had a guest on recently, and we talked about when you look in your past, you're almost always, it's going to be negative. Because you get focused on the negative. And if you look into the future, it can give you hope and stuff, but you need to really focus on the present and live for today and in the moment.
Yeah, that's right.
So I think what you're helping these people do is you're helping them break out of living in the past. You're giving them something future, forward looking, helping them to think about something right now and what they can do right now to prepare for that trip. So
yeah, that's very true.
Well, so what's, I love your website. I love your Instagram. It's all fantastic. What's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
So I guess it depends on what they want to get in touch about. So if they're looking to get in touch regarding the business, our website is the best way to either send an inquiry form through a specific tour that's of interest, or you can simply jump onto our Contact Us page, which you can send us an email straight through there. Our website is www.crooked-compass.com. If you're interested in following our travels, our clients as they travel, our Instagram and our Facebook page would be the best mediums for that. So on Facebook, it's Crooked Compass Travel, and on Instagram, it is at crooked_compass. If you're looking to contact me personally, you can also follow my personal Instagram, which is my name, all one word, Lisa Pagotto, with an underscore at the end. And on that Instagram, I share a fair bit about learnings through my business, things that I've learnt, challenges I face, things that people throw at me that are not expected, and how they're overcome. More to it's obviously a way for me to share what I'm learning, but also for other people to learn off as well. Or otherwise, our phone number is also on our website if anyone wants to have a chat.
Great. Okay. Well, then, is there anything that we didn't cover that you would like to share with us, or?
No, I think we've gone into a fair bit of detail.
Yeah. Okay. No. Cool. Well, I really appreciate having you on the show today, Lisa. I feel like you covered a lot of ground here, and there's a lot of good golden nuggets here, I believe, that we can take and implement in our personal as well as our business life. So thank you for your time and sharing your story with us.
No problems at all. Thanks, Tom.
I can't imagine traveling to over 100 countries like Lisa has, and she also talked about how, this year she's only traveled 20%, but the year before she traveled roughly 40% of the year, and she wants to travel more, which that's amazing, and just how she handles relationships and stuff while doing that, how she manages her business, some pretty cool takeaways there, just essentially, have those discussions with your family, friends, your romantic partner, or whatever, and make sure that you're all on the same page. And then just from a technical side, make sure that you have internet. That's what it boils down to when you have a business like this, where you can do anything that you need to as long as you have a internet connection. Outside of that, I loved the idea that she talked about. When I asked, how how does she kind of up-rev and move to that next level in her life? And basically she just said, ask questions. No question is a dumb question. But what I really liked is this, board of advisors that she put together. So they're not on the board of her company, nothing like that, but they're mentors that she has that she surrounds herself with, and she puts an agenda together and she meets with them on a monthly basis. And, they want her to succeed. They have the skills that she doesn't have. And she just goes to them with the challenges that she's having or facets of her business that she wants to get to that next level. I think that's probably one of the best key takeaways from this whole interview, but there's so much in here. But, that's one I'm going to walk away with.
Thanks for listening to the UpRev Ninja podcast with your host, Tom Hudson. Navigate to our website at uprev.ninja today, where you will find additional resources to help you discover the best version of you. While you're there, join our newsletter and join the discussion on your favorite social media platforms. We've got some awesome guests lined up to share with us how they are becoming the best versions of themselves. Again, thank you for listening. Now it's time to go out and uprev your life.